If someone asks you to give you an extract, we can do this thing. So we can go to the reports tab. In case if you do not find this reports tab here, you can always explore this option called all tabs menu, and that is where you can search for your reports. Either you can do it via from the tab, which is exposed on your tab menu, or you can search for your reports on your all tabs menu. Click on that tab, and that is where you have an option to basically create a report. I'll not go through that process. I hope you know that. So I'm just opening a random report that I have with me. So usually when you open a report in an edit mode, this is how it looks like. And this is how it looks like, right? Once you're done with all the changes that you wanted to add, let's say the filters that you wanted to add. So there is an option called run report at the top. Click on that. And if you see, there is an export details button here. So that is where if you click on that button, it gives us an option to export the report that we have generated into an Excel sheet format or a .csv format. .csv is nothing but comma separated value, right? Why we need that? We'll just look into that when we go into our data migration. All right. So this is one way of exporting your report that you have generated in Salesforce as a CSV file or an Excel file, so that you can send it to your clients and they will look into that information, come up with a strategy saying that this is how we want to clean up the data, or they might say that these are the records that I wanted to remove from the system, or this is the information that I wanted to update. So this is some records that I wanted to create in the system, right? Whatever be the strategy from their end, they need to have a look at the data in some format so that they can go through that, review, identify, and then come up with a list of items that we can do. That all comes under data cleanup activity. So once you have selected the right, review it yourself in case if they have given you something. If you click on export, that is where it would ask you where to save. And once you have clicked on save, it would download, right? As simple as that. That is for your reports list view. I hope you know configuring those things. That list view basically shows 200 records or whatever the limit that it has. And it would be too difficult for the people to go through all the list views by clicking on next. List view is something that if you have a small set of a data, that would be a right way. More than that, I would prefer sending it as a CSV file so that they can review, right? So that is your second way. Third way is to basically go with your third-party tools. There are many of tools, but I'll give you a generic idea with the help of your workbench. Workbench is something that everyone uses. The process remains same. Be it data loader that you select. Data loader is something that you can download as a Windows application or a Mac application in your system, which would be installed locally, and you can connect to your org with the credentials, and that is where the process remains same. Second one is your workbench. Workbench is something that a website that I'll be sharing the link with you. This one also acts like the same way, right? So it also establishes a connection with the Salesforce org that we have opened, and we can do the data load there also. All right. When I say data load or data migration, it is one and the same. Third one is dataloader.io. This is also an application that we can. This is also a web-based application in which we can do the same process that we are doing with the workbench. So there are like so many tools which can do the data migration. This is the URL. I'll just ping it to you so that you can bookmark it.
How can we identify duplicate values?
Duplicate values, that is something that you can do it in your Excel sheet. So duplicate as in case if they say that BCD is something that a record that has been created in your Excel sheet, this is how you can get the information. All right. So if this is the account name and the website, so do you want me to show it in how we need to do it in an Excel sheet?
Like you just went to reports, right? By downloading that, we'll get the fields such as name, contact, or email ID. So based on that, we'll get to know whether we are having duplicate fields or not.
Right. So help me understand. So this one is like when I have to call it as a duplicate, I need to have a kind of a identifier to say that it's a duplicate. The identifier could be just a name. Right? Yes. Identifier just by name, there could be some companies with almost same names. All right. If that is my criteria, every company should have a unique name. then it's a duplicate. If something has been repeated, I can call it as a duplicate. At times, what would happen is there would be some company, let's say a parent company, and for which you have multiple companies under it. They would have the same name with some variation in it. If you think that it's a duplicate value, they do not want to keep them as duplicates.
Yeah,
Maybe
they'll
that
give
company is saying
condition.
that, right. So the condition basically plays a role into identify your duplicate values. That is why a requirement plays a crucial role here, because
How
I
do
cannot,
we eradicate duplicate values?
right. I'll get to that point, right? So once you have
Okay.
that list, right? Once you have that list, the workbench part, that is where we are looking at how to get an extract first, in case if you are not comfortable extracting all the fields from your reports, right? So that is where you can go with your workbench. Workbench basically gives you the entire picture of what all fields that we have and what all things that we can explore, that we can do with your workbench, right? So once we get there, you will have an extract. You and I, as a developers or an admins, we cannot decide what is a duplicate, even though we have that luxury of identifying it. Until unless we are a business analyst, until unless we are a client, we do not have we do not have a luxury to go ahead and delete duplicate records. It has to come from them. So that is where we send an extract first, right? How can we send an extract via reports is something that we can do. Other way is to go with your workbench. How to connect to your workbench? First thing is your environment. Environment decides to which environment that you want to connect to. Is it the production that you want to connect? Is it a sandbox that you want to connect? If it is a production, you will select production. If it is a sandbox, you will select sandbox. Since I'm connected to my developer edition or which is a kind of a production or, so that is why I'm selecting production here. This API version is something that it represents in what way you want your metadata. If they want the data from your production, usually the things goes like this. If they want to do a data cleanup, usually they wanted the data, real data would be there in production. So they wanted an extract from production first. Once they have an extract, they will process it. They'll come back with a file saying that this is what they wanted to do. And they'll not directly do it in production. They'll do it in a sandbox, let's say UAT sandbox, or let's say a quick QA environment to see how these changes would look like. So once that is there, once it is been reviewed by the client, again, we'll have this demo or something of training or where we show that information to the client. If he is happy, then we proceed doing those changes in production. The same story of the development repeats here also to basically get the things to production. We do not directly delete records in production without any. Initially, the extract that they would ask might be from production. The reason why I'm saying production is this is the environment they have the actual data. In sandbox, I might create some dummy data saying that test 1, 2, 3 or test maybe XYZ. Whatever that comes to my mind for testing purpose, I might create the data. It is not a kind of a right data that is there. It is something that I have created for unit testing. So that is where they would ask the data from production. Or in case if you are not sure, you can raise this question saying that from where and which environment I need to provide you that information. At times, they might say it from production, or they might say it from give that information from a demo sandbox or whatever the sandbox that they have. They would refer to that name saying that this is where I want that data to be extracted from, right? Extract is nothing but downloading the data from that particular org, right, for a particular environment. Be it from production, be it from sandbox, we use this terminology called extract to basically download that information from that particular org to your Excel sheet. Now, this API version is something that we'll discuss when we go with the code migration. For now, leave it as it is. Check this checkbox which says I agree to the terms for service. Until unless you do that, it will not allow you to log in. So this is something that you need to check. Right, login with Salesforce is what you'll click. Once I click on this button, there are two flows here. If I have my org already open, this workbench will basically read that information. It will read that information. If that is already open and if you have clicked on allow for the first time. If you are the first time user for this workbench, there would be a screen that comes up. Right, as soon as I click on login with Salesforce, right? So the previous step that I was in, if I click on this step, there would be a pop-up that comes up, which says either it would ask you for a username and password, the Salesforce username and password, so that it can connect to your workbench. because workbench is some third-party tool that I'm using, right? So that needs an connection establishment from which org that it needs to access. If I say production, there would be many of instance of productions or many production orgs that would be there. It needs to identify which org it needs to connect. So that is why you provide username and password. It would ask you for it would show you a second screen where it would ask you to click on an allow button to allow this workbench to access your data that is there in your org. Right? If you're a first-time user, it would ask you a username and password. These are the Salesforce username and password that you would give, and you'll click on login. It would take to your second page wherein which it would ask you to click on allow button or cancel, wherein which it says, do you want to allow this workbench to access your org? If you're okay to use this application, click on allow and it would take me to this page that I am on. So if I click on login, if this all things are done, you'll be landing down to the third page that I am on. Right? You will see info tab, query tab, data tab, migration, and utilities. So if you're a first-time user, this is how the flow would be. If you've already authorized it, it would basically redirect and you will be able to see the screen without these activities. What is the starting point for the data migration? In case if you want to do an insert, update, delete, other things with the data, you can use your data tab. In case if you want to extract the information, that is where you use your query tab. So if I want to extract the information from Salesforce to my local in the form of CSV, that is where I use my SQL query for that. Right? Click on this queries tab and click on this SQL query tab. So this is how this page looks like. In case if you want to download it as CSV, select this as bulk CSV. It is asking me, I have understood that you wanted to download something, right? Now, what is that object from where you want that information to be coming from? So I'm saying that I want the extract to be coming from account. If it is some custom object that you have, you can select that. In case if there is some other object that you're looking out for, let's say be it case, be it contact, whatever it is, you will select that object according to your need. In case if you want a multiple files, that is where you can do that extract in multiple phases. So I've selected account here. Now, once I've selected, you have an option to write down your query. You have an option to write down your query in this box. A second way to do that is to make use of your fields that are there here. Right? So if I want multiple fields, I'm using shift and down arrow in my keyboard to select the fields that I want. In case if you have a simple selection, let's say, in case if you want a single field, you can go ahead and do that. Press and hold your control. That is where you can select all the fields that you want. Right? Since it's just a kind of an simple explanation, I'll just select the first 4 or 5 fields that I have. Right? So once you are done, this is how your query comes up. I'm not adding any where clauses here. Basically talks about what all fields that you want in your sheet, this section. This one talks about the object, and if I execute this query, how many records that I have on the account object, all the records would be fetched for the next process. The process of extracting would initiate for all the records that I have on the account object. If I have certain conditions saying that I should have the name field should not be blank, or I have another field on account object which is industry, or I can say account number should not be blank. Account number should not be blank. I can write account not equal to null. This where condition basically decides what all records that I want from the system. Do I want all records? Then there is no need of writing them. Right? If I want specific set of records, that is where my where clause comes into picture. So you decide depending on your requirement. If they say that I want all accounts of type industry equal to banking to be extracted to see if there are any duplicates in it, or they wanted to do some additional processing on that set of data. That is where you would basically write your where condition saying that where industry is equal to banking. Right? So that is where you expertise this or make use of this where condition, right? Where clause. Now, once you're done with your query, then you can click on this query button. So that is where this workbench would start the process of initiation of getting those records to us. Right? So these are all the set of records that I have. Right? I still have some more records. Right? You can basically get that as an extract. So you can get that as an extract to CSV. If you select it as a list, it will display that list just like how it is showing it right now. Make sure that you are putting it as bulk CSV as an option. Once you give that bulk CSV as an option, it would show you what all things that it has done. For this job ID, right, it has fetched 1093 records from the system, right? 0 failures, right? The number of batches that it took is 1, and that has been completed. So the processing time, all the things are listed down here, right? So account object, the type of operation that we have used is query. So that is how it would display the entire details. Status is closed. That means the request is being processed. Everything is done. Now current status is closed, and this file is ready to be downloaded. You can check those details here itself without opening that file. So in case if you want to download it, there is a button that says that looks like a download symbol. You can click on that and it would be downloaded as a CSV file. So let me just save that and show it to you how it looks like. 1 second. So this is how the fields would be extracted, right? So the information that I've asked is, hey workbench, give me all the accounts that I have in the system, all right? So this is how the information that I have, right? If you see, not all fields would be filled out depending on the information that we have. There will be certain fields that would be filled out and certain fields that would not be filled out. So it is up to you how you want to basically, what all fields that you want and how you want to basically do this process. And this is how you can get an extract. So this would be in a .csv format so that you can share it with your clients.
Hey guys, if you like this video, do like, share and subscribe to SFDC Quest.